Dream matches and, well, just matches pitting iconic names against one another are always memorable, or at least it is good to know that the two participants have had at least one encounter together inside the ropes. While we can all look back at the matches that we were all fortunate to witness, regardless of how good or bad the bout was, there has been a large number of competitors who have worked against someone in, let's say, a tag team match, a battle royal, a fatal 4-way match, etc., but they themselves have never went one-on-one against one another. It can be surprising, the list of singles matches that we never got to see, and we may or may not have realised that. So today we will look at, in no particular order, a list of one-on-one matches that have never taken place between superstars who have worked against each other in multi-person bouts, regardless of whether that being on television or at live events. Remember, they may not all be considered as dream matches of sorts, but maybe it would have been good to see the two do battle one-on-one had the match happened at least just the once. We'll start off with an obvious one that has been talked about so much. Hulk Hogan versus Stone Cold Steve Austin is a shining example of the term missed opportunity. When Hogan made his debut in WCW in the summer of 1994, Steve Austin himself was also under contract to Ted Turner's wrestling organisation. The two men never met inside the ring for a match against one another in WCW, given that Austin was not looked upon by the higher-ups as a future star, and he would end up getting fired in 1995. When Hogan made his return to the WWE in 2002, plans began to take centre stage for Hulk to work at WrestleMania 18 against the Texas Rattlesnake. Common reasons given as to why we never got to witness what could have been this classic bout between the two was because Stone Cold was not keen to take on Hogan due to his reputation of backstage politics and shenanigans, and also he felt they couldn't deliver the goods inside the ropes. And another possible reason given was that the two couldn't come to an agreement on who would be the one to go over at Mania 18. While we never got to see that dream match happen, we did however get to see Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan work a match together, and that was on the Raw before WrestleMania 18, where Austin, along with The Rock, teamed up against the New World Order, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall and Hogan himself in a handicap match. The two men didn't engage much against each other during the match, and it was the NWO who got the win after Hogan pinned his WrestleMania opponent, The Rock. And this handicap match marks the only ever time we got to see Stone Cold Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan work a match together. Like so many others, I definitely would have been keen to see the two men work a one-on-one match together, but of course we'll never get treated to this bout, unfortunately. Here's a match I would have liked to have happened, the King of Kings taking on the Master of the 619. During the early days of the Ruthless Aggression era, the two men worked on separate shows, so this obviously prevented us from seeing the two men work one-on-one in the ring. However, Triple H and Mysterio have shared the ring on 3 separate occasions. Their first encounter occurred in the 2006 Royal Rumble match, where the two men started the match from the first 2 entries. That's really the closest we got to see the two go one-on-one. Their next encounter took place, funnily enough, a few weeks later at the return of Saturday Night's Main Event. At the show, Triple H teamed up with his WrestleMania 22 opponent, WWE Champion John Cena, against Rey Mysterio and his Mania opponents, Randy Orton and World Champion Kurt Angle. Triple H and John Cena won the bout when Cena pinned Orton with a roll-up. And the final time the two men met inside the squared circle was in the 2009 Royal Rumble match, but this time both men didn't really get involved with one another in the match. There was never a time Triple H and Mysterio ever faced off at house shows as well, just wanted to bring that up too. Triple H versus Rey Mysterio is yet another match I so wanted to see, and if you ever wanted to watch an example of seeing the two men go one-on-one, then watch the first couple of minutes of the 2006 Royal Rumble, as that is really the closest to a one-on-one bout between the two that we'll ever get to witness. Maybe a bit of a random choice this one. Strangely, we never got to witness the Nature Boy and the Wrestling God square off against one another inside the ropes. This one may not be considered a dream match of sorts, but it possibly could have been interesting to see Flair and Bradshaw one-on-one. Luckily, there has been only one time that the two men worked a match on opposing sides, and that would happen on the March 23rd, 2008 edition of Raw, the go-home show before WrestleMania 24. On that night, Ric Flair teamed up with Triple H, Shawn Michaels and John Cena, where they were victorious against The Big Show, Randy Orton, Umaga and JBL himself. However, due to outside interference from the likes of Finlay and Batista, both JBL and Ric Flair never actually got to set foot inside the ropes to actually go against each other. That match was their only ever encounter inside the ring, and of course it happened just a week before Flair had to retire at WrestleMania 24 when he lost to Shawn Michaels in a career-threatening match. While there may have been some that wouldn't see this as dream match material, it would have been good to have at least seen the two men square off against one another. 2008 would have probably been the best time for the two men to meet in the ring. JBL maybe could have been an opponent for Ric Flair during Flair's retirement storyline leading up to Mania 24. Flair of course could have won the match, and I wouldn't have been against seeing JBL and the Nature Boy face off just the once in WWE. Probably another random one here, no doubt. By the time John Cena made his WWE debut in June of 2002, Mick Foley was retired from in-ring competition, but in 2004, Foley began to work matches again in WWE. Cena and Foley never really encountered one another much on TV, even after Cena got drafted to Raw in 2005. There are, however, 3 recorded matches that both Cena and Mick Foley have worked together. Well, 2 of them were Royal Rumble matches, the 2004 bout and the 2008 Rumble. However, both men never shared the ring during both those Rumbles, as Mick entered before John did, and Mrs. Foley's baby boy was already eliminated both times by the time Cena made his way to the ring. However, the 3rd recorded match to feature both men took place at the Vengeance Night of Champions pay-per-view in 2007, where Cena, who was WWE Champion, defended the title in a fatal 5-way match which included Mick Foley himself, along with Randy Orton, King Booker and Bobby Lashley. The two men did clash a couple of times, and the match ended when Cena pinned Mick Foley following an attitude adjustment and retains the WWE Championship. Again, not probably considered a dream match, but this could have been at least a decent bout between the hardcore legend and John Cena himself. A match that possibly could have been an excellent encounter. Yes, Bret the Hitman Hart and the Texas Tornado Kerry Von Erich never once worked one-on-one with each other. While Kerry and Bret of course didn't work a singles match, their only times working together in the ring was in the 1991 Royal Rumble, along with 5 Battle Royals. 4 of those matches were at live events. In the 1991 Rumble, both men entered the match early on and did get to be in the ring at the same time until both men were separately eliminated by The Undertaker. 1991 would have been the right time to host a Bret Hart vs Kerry Von Erich bout. I could have pictured the two men in a rivalry over the Intercontinental Championship, and who knows how well the two men would have worked together inside the ropes. Although this was a bit before my time, I will admit, I would have been interested to see the Hitman and the Texas Tornado clash, regardless of whether that being on pay-per-view or on TV. This is a match that was supposed to take place on pretty much 2 separate occasions, but due to misfortunes and questionable booking decisions, we never got to witness Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch square off together. The first occasion where they were booked to face off against one another was at the 2018 Survivor Series, but prior to the event, Becky Lynch got a broken nose thanks to Nia Jax and was eventually removed from the match, which then ended up having Ronda face SmackDown Charlotte Flair instead. The next occasion where we were supposed to see Lynch vs Rousey was at WrestleMania 35 for Ronda's Raw Women's Championship. but thanks to, again, some questionable booking decisions, the WWE decided to make the match a triple threat encounter, with SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair added to the mix, and the belt would be a winner takes all for both women's titles. This was a decision that some fans didn't like at all. The WrestleMania 35 match was the only time we got to see both Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch face off in a match, and sadly the ending of the match was botched, and who knows if that would have also happened had it just been Rousey versus Lynch in the first place. The Lynch versus Rousey bout that we never got was a good example of a time when WWE likely deliberately refused to give the fans what they wanted. This is surprisingly a one-on-one match we've never witnessed ever in WWE, Booker T versus Shawn Michaels. Now, I actually thought these two superstars have actually had a match together, and I was wrong, they haven't. CageMatch.net shows that the only matches they were involved in as individual opponents Booker T versus the Heartbreak Kid would have definitely been an interesting match to witness, and I was a bit shocked to discover that those two have never squared off one-on-one. The best time that we could have had that match happen would have been in 2002, where Michaels and Booker T were part of the New World Order, and when HBK hit Sweet Chin Music on Booker to signify the latter's removal from the faction, that could have been a good time to have the match occur, but this was at a time when Shawn was not competing in the ring and he wasn't considering returning to in-ring competition. Although there were never any plans for the two men to face one another, this is maybe another good example of a dream match that was never to be. Yes, Dean Ambrose versus Finn Balor has also strangely never occurred. While Finn Balor has worked with Ambrose's former Shield teammates, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose is the only one that Balor has not faced one-on-one. There have been matches that the two men have faced off on opposing sides, with only one of those making it to television, and that bout was a six-man tag team match from the January 7th, 2019 edition of Raw, where Balor teamed up with Seth Rollins and John Cena against a team of Bobby Lashley, Dean Ambrose and Drew McIntyre. Balor's team got the win in that match. Given that Dean Ambrose left the WWE in 2019 and now works in All Elite Wrestling as Jon Moxley, that does indicate that we may never get to see Ambrose and Balor square off in a wrestling ring ever, but never say never. Here's another women's match that has never taken place before, Trish Stratus versus the Glamazon. I always knew that the two had met in the ring before, but not once in a one-on-one contest. Fortunately, we have 4 TV matches that featured both women as opponents. Their first time meeting in the ring occurred on the December 22nd, 2008 edition of Raw, where Beth Phoenix, who was aligned with Santino Marella, teamed up against World Heavyweight Champion John Cena and a mystery partner who was revealed to be Trish Stratus. Cena and Stratus won the match. The next encounter would be on Raw's September 14th, 2009 episode, where Trish was the guest host for the show. On that night, Trish teamed up with Montel Vontavious Porter to take on the Glamazon and the Unified Tag Team Champion Chris Jericho. Following interference from Jericho's tag team partner The Big Show, the match ended in a disqualification win for Trish and MVP. After Mark Henry ran down to assist the two, a rematch was immediately booked with Mark Henry and Big Show added to the bout. In that contest, Trish pinned Beth to score the win. The final match to feature the two women was the first ever all-women's Royal Rumble match in 2018, but it was another case of the two participants not sharing the ring together, as Beth Phoenix entered the match first and was eliminated by Natalya way before Trish Stratus entered from the number 30 spot. I doubt it very much that this one-on-one match would ever happen. Possibly another random choice this one. The almighty Bobby Lashley and the Big Red Machine are another two names who never worked a singles match against one another. While they never did accomplish that, they have met as opponents on 5 separate occasions, with their first 2 in Battle Royals that were held at house shows. The first televised bout that featured the 2 men was at the 2005 Survivor Series, where Lashley and Kane were on opposing teams. While they didn't square off together during the match, Kane was the one who assisted Shawn Michaels in eliminating Lashley from the match after the Big Red Machine nailed a chokeslam whilst he was on the ring apron. Kane and Lashley's next encounter was in the 2006 Royal Rumble, where Lashley entered at number 8 and Kane entered right after Lashley. This time the 2 men got offense on one another until Kane, along with his tag team partner The Big Show, double chokeslammed Bobby Lashley and then eliminated him from the Rumble match. Their final televised match that the 2 competed in was in the 2021 Royal Rumble. However, that time Kane, who entered at number 18, was already eliminated by the time Bobby Lashley came out at number 22, and so they didn't share the ring together that time around. While this bout may not come across as another dream match, maybe, just maybe, it could have been interesting to see the 2 clash one-on-one, but this is one that we'll never get to see, given that Kane has retired and is now in the Hall of Fame. Yet another one-on-one match that we've never come across, Batista versus The Miz. This is again another match that I mistakenly thought had actually happened, but no, I was wrong again. We have had 6 occasions where Miz and the Animal have worked in the same contest. 3 of those bouts were the 2008, 2010 and 2014 Royal Rumbles. The other matches the 2 men have been opponents were in the 2008 WWE Draft Battle Royal, where Miz represented ECW and Dave Batista represented Raw. The next bout that they were opponents in was on the May 25th 2009 edition of Raw in a 10-man tag team match, where Batista's team wore the basketball kits for the LA Lakers, whilst Miz's team wore the kits for the Denver Nuggets. And on Raw's April 5th 2010 episode, Big Show and The Miz defended the unified tag team titles against John Cena and Batista, which Miz and Big Show won via countout. Batista versus The Miz is a match that I would have not have been overly desperate to see, in all honesty. Yes, it would have been again good to see the 2 clash, probably in the upper mid card rather than the main event scene, but we'll never of course get to see this bout take place ever. Yes, these 2 have never faced off in a one-on-one capacity. MVP and Edge have however been in the same bout together in the Royal Rumbles of 2007, 2010 and 2020, along with just 2 televised Battle Royals. They never worked in bouts like Fatal 4-Ways or anything along those lines. They did share the ring in the 2007 Rumble, but didn't really get offense on one another. In the 2010 Rumble, MVP eliminated himself whilst eliminating The Miz, and Edge entered at number 29 and he would eventually win the Royal Rumble. And coincidentally, both men made their comebacks in WWE in the 2020 Royal Rumble, but again they didn't meet in the ring during the contest. As for the other 2 encounters, on SmackDown's May 9th 2008 episode, MVP took part in a Battle Royal where the winner would face The Undertaker at Judgment Day for the vacant World Heavyweight title. And again, the 2 didn't actually share the ring, and Edge was not added to the bout until the very end, after Batista initially won the match and Edge then ran down to eliminate the Animal. In the 2009 WWE Draft, Edge represented SmackDown and MVP for Raw in a Battle Royal. The 2 men at that time did brawl a couple of times during the match, and in the end MVP got eliminated by Mark Henry and Edge would win the match for SmackDown. I would have liked to have seen Edge and MVP clash in the ring, but if they did have a match, it probably would have ended up ever happening on weekly television rather than on pay-per-view. Yet another interesting encounter that we never got to see with our own eyes, CM Punk versus Rob Van Dam. When Punk made his debut as part of ECW in 2006, There could have been a great opportunity for the two men to compete against each other. While both Punk and Van Dam were booked as babyfaces on ECW, both men have been in the ring as opponents in 5 separate multi-man matches. Their first encounter together was in the Extreme Elimination Chamber match at the December to Dismember pay-per-view in 2006. A month later, the two men entered the 2007 Royal Rumble, CM Punk at number 11 and RVD at number 18. Their next encounter was in a Battle Royal on a house show on February 24, 2007. Both men then met in the 2009 Royal Rumble, CM Punk at number 18 and Van Dam at number 25. And finally, the last time the two men met was when Rob Van Dam made his return to WWE in 2013 at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view in the ladder match for the WWE Championship contract. Rob Van Dam versus CM Punk, to me, should have really happened, especially when both men were on the ECW brand. Maybe had either man won the ECW Championship in the Extreme Elimination Chamber, then we could have seen the ECW main event scene look a bit more promising. A dream match of my personal choice that I would have loved to have seen take place, the Viper versus the Great One. The time that would have been perfect for the two to clash against one another would have been late 2003 to early 2004, as Randy Orton was doing his Legend Killer persona. While Randy did work with Rocky's former teammate Mick Foley in around that same time period, it would have been good to see Orton face Rock during this rivalry with Mick Foley to help build around their storyline. But due to Rock winding down his wrestling career to focus on his movie career, there seemed like there was no opportunity to have the two men meet inside the ropes. While of course Rock versus Orton never happened one-on-one, their only matches together were a Battle Royal in February 2003 where the winner would face Triple H at WrestleMania 19 for the World Heavyweight Championship, a match that was won by Booker T, and their only other encounter was their handicap match at WrestleMania 20 where Randy teamed up with his Evolution buddies Batista and Nature Boy Ric Flair against Rock and Mick Foley, which saw Evolution score the win. Randy Orton versus The Rock, that probably could have been a match for the ages, and when Rock returned in 2011, there possibly was a chance to have the two men square off, even if it was just for a short storyline, but the WWE had Rock work on pay-per-view with the likes of John Cena and CM Punk, and Eric Rowan, may I just mention. So yeah, another most likely case of a missed opportunity in professional wrestling. And that is all for today, everyone. While we never always get to see the matches that we all dream of or so badly want in professional wrestling, at least there were times that the two competitors had worked a multi-person match and fans could envision seeing the two competitors square off against each other. There are of course some that I never talked about in this upload, but if you have any other one-on-one matches that never took place, but the two competitors in question have worked in the ring together, then let me know and we could have a follow-up to this video in the future. Thank you all so much for watching and I'll see you all again soon.